Hi, my name is Jessica Alexandria. I am a Canadian author and filmmaker, among other things. I'm trying to post more on my YouTube channel, but I have just been so busy with everything that I have been doing that I haven't had the time. So today I'm coming to you with a video. It'll probably be a little bit long. I apologize for that, but it's covering a very important and serious topic that I have been meaning to cover for a couple of months and haven't. So if you have been following me on my Instagram account, you will probably already know what I'm going to be discussing today. Because I wrote an article and uploaded it to my blog, alicegrimrose.com, and it is titled My Experience, A Warning. Two things I want to quickly mention before we get in. One thing I struggle to do when recording is either look at my camera, like the camera, or to look at the image of myself. So if you see like my eyes darting back and forth, that's why. It's because I keep shifting what I'm looking at. I've always struggled with that. I'm also recording this on my phone because my camera crapped out. So I no longer have a camera right now. So I'm recording this on my cell phone, so hopefully it's okay quality. The second thing I want to mention is I have my two dogs in my office with me, and they're running around like crazed demons right now. So if you hear little tip taps in the background, it's just my dogs. Okay, so to get started, if you've been following me for a while, you will know I published my first novel, The Murder Society, in March of 2024. Now, I put a lot of hard work and effort into writing this book. It actually originally started out as an idea for a TV series, and the original plot idea for that was a brother and a sister who both had secret lives as hitmen, as contract killers, and they ended up getting a hit on each other. And that was like the whole thing. But I started writing it as a screenplay, and it didn't really stick. So I'm like, hey, well, I'll write it as a novel. And I was struggling to write The Happy Pills, which was the novel I was working on at the time. Because I would get about 30,000 words into my first draft and give up, and I would scrap it and be like, I hate this, I hate all of it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll try working on something different. So I wrote The Murder Society. It's about just over 100,000 words long. I'm very proud of it, and it's my first finished novel. Well, at the time, I've finished another one since then. But in 2024, this was my first finished novel. So I was just going to self-publish it through a program called KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. All of my friends in the indie author community know what that is. It's a free way to publish your book through Amazon, and all they do is they take some royalties out of the cost of publishing the book, which is fine. You can publish it as Kindle, you can publish it as paperback, you can publish it as hardback, like my copy was. And that's great. So that's what I originally was going to do. So I live in Sarnia, and my mother owned an occult store called Nimu's Closet. I would go there and I would work. I loved it. It was a great store. I made so many friends. She made so many friends. It was amazing. And during COVID, because I originally got into writing during COVID-19, I published two short stories, Goodnight Delilah and Love Lost, through a online magazine. It was just online at the time, and that was super awesome because I hadn't even been writing professionally for a year, and I had gotten two short stories published with them, which was amazing. And this was at the time I was still going under the pen name Alice Grimrose, which I don't go under anymore, obviously. So that was great. Well, it turns out that sorry, I am so bad at explaining things sometimes. So my mom owns an occult store, and when we moved to Sarnia, she got a friend of hers to help her manage it. Well, this friend was friends with the editor from the magazine. So my mom and this friend and the editor arranged for her to show up at my mom's store one day and surprise me. And I was super excited. I got to meet her for the first time. We sat and talked for hours about just books and writing and publishing. It was amazing. She was a lovely lady. And they even, I had to do a live stream that I had planned for a very long time with a couple friends of mine on YouTube. So while I was streaming, those three ladies actually recorded a episode for the editor's podcast. I'm like, okay, cool, nice, okay. And while I was talking with this editor, when we were having joyous conversation, I mentioned that I was writing a book. I had just finished and I was currently in the editing stages, and I had just sent it to a friend of mine who was a published author to edit it for me and to get a second opinion on all that fun stuff. And the editor was like, oh, well, we publish books, right? We've been publishing books for like 20 years. I'm like, oh, no, I did not know that. That is good information to know. And she's like, well, what's your book about? And I told her a synopsis, and she's like, okay, well, here's our email. Send the synopsis to this email, and we'll think about publishing you. I'm like, great, awesome, okay. So that night, I emailed them a synopsis, and within the next couple of days, they agreed to publish me. And, I think I was a little starstruck at first because I had just written my first book. I was planning to self-publish, and a publishing company immediately picked me up. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy big. Because not just every day does a first author, not every day does someone get picked up by a publishing company to publish their debut novel. Like, that's a big deal. So I was a little starstruck, and I was super excited to start the process of publishing my first novel. So it begins. The publishing company was based out of California, but the editor was local to Ontario. The friend that I had editing my novel didn't get to finish because I had to send it to the editor from the publishing company. So this friend that was editing my book, she made a couple comments to make changes to my novel that I didn't agree with, which is fine. Everyone has differing opinions. I didn't hold that against her or anything. I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm leaving it. And I was open with the editor from the publishing company about it because I'm like, this friend of mine raised concerns about certain aspects of my plot. What do you feel about this? And the editor from the company was like, yeah, no, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, good. So I sent them the manuscript and everything was good. I talked to the editor a bunch of times, expressing my concerns about how short a editing time frame I was given. Because this was about mid-fall, end of fall 2023, and my book was to be published in March. So what would happen is the editor would go through the manuscript, make suggestions on what to change, and she would send it back to me, and I would go through the manuscript to adjust, to accept all of her comments and change anything that she made suggestions on, sign off on it, and send it back to her. Because of the short time frame, I wasn't given enough time to go through the manuscript entirely again myself. So I only had enough time to go through and accept all of her suggested changes and send it back to her. And then I would wait a couple weeks, and then she would send it back to me, and I would do the same thing. Okay, so I was very confident in this editor's abilities. She had published many books of her own. She had been working as an editor for this company for a very long time. I trusted her abilities. And I was very open and honest with her about my challenges with spelling and grammar, because I have ASD, which stands for autism spectrum disorder, and I may be an amazing writer. I know I'm a little biased, but I struggle with spelling and grammar. And I was very open and honest with her about that, and she assured me that that would not be an issue. So finally, the editor sends me the galleys of my manuscript. And I look through them, and that was an intense voice crack there. And I look through the galleys, and she's like, this is just cosmetic. Just cosmetic. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I know what a galley is. So I look through the galley. I just skimmed through it because it stated in the contract with the publisher that I was supposed to have 7 days to approve the galleys, but they were sent to me late, and they only gave me 5 days to approve the galleys. So I scanned through it as fast as I could and sent it back. I told the editor this. I said I was supposed to have 7 days. I am not happy with this time frame because I was not able to fully go through my own manuscript because of the short time frame I was given. And she simply agreed that the time frame was a bit short. Those were her words exactly, by the way, a bit short. So, okay, whatever. I was confident in her abilities of going through my manuscript. So, my book is now published. I received my first copy in the mail. I'm super excited. The editor asked me to record myself opening the package and seeing my book for the first time. So I opened it, and I couldn't show this, like, my distraughtness on camera when my book showed up with the wrong cover. So I acted through it, and I was like, oh, wow, I love it so much. And then I ended the video, and I'm like, what the fuck? So it stated in the contract that it was up to the publishing company to create a front and back cover for my novel. I ended up creating the front cover. The editor created the back. So when I created this, you can see here, hold on, let me move closer. There's supposed to be a red-haired woman standing here. So I'm like, well, it cut her off entirely. Like, you can see a little bit of red hair here. But, so I was frustrated. So I politely and professionally emailed the editor, and I was like, my cover's screwed up. We need to fix this because we cannot be selling faulty copies of my book. Like, if the cover is wrong, that counts as a faulty book. I cannot sell that. So she's like, okay, let me look into it. And she looked into it, and she said that the dimensions were wrong, and Amazon didn't leave enough bleed room. Might I mention, right after I signed the contract with this publishing company, did they tell me that they publish all of their books through Kindle Direct Publishing? If I had known that before, I wouldn't have signed the contract because that's what I was going to do in the first place. And I would have made more money. Anyway, I only got like, I think it was 10% royalties off of my book. So it's crazy. Like, I would have made more money, and it would have been so much simpler if I had just done it myself. Ugh. Anyway, she blamed the error on Amazon, corrected it. She said that there wasn't enough bleed room in the cover, so she corrected it, and she had to move the text over and shift the image over to show her. This is still my author copy. I think I sold all of the copies that I had. I might have some in a box over there. I don't know. So yeah, this still has the faulty cover. Okay, that was fixed. So I'm like, okay, great, it's fixed, awesome. And now I wanted to save up and purchase a couple copies of my book to do a book signing and a reading. Here in Sarnia, we have a Center of the Arts called the Lawrence House. It's in this beautiful historical building that's rumored to be haunted, I might add. And they have massive First Friday events every month. Massive. So I was going to talk to them and do a book signing and do a book reading at one of these First Friday events. Hold on. Here is this tippy tapping dog I was telling you about. You gonna say hi, Samson? Gonna say hi? He likes to sit on my lap when I'm in my office, So I knew that the publishing company had a deal where when I ordered my first batch of author copies, I didn't have to pay shipping. I just paid for the author copies themselves. So I wanted to save up and be able to buy a big load of author copies. But I didn't know how much I could get, so I wanted to know how much it would be for 10 copies. So I messaged the editor and I'm like, how much will it cost for me to order 10 author copies? And she's like, it'll cost about $100 USD. I'm like, okay, thank you for the information. My mother told me to not place the order because she, at the end of the month, she was going to give me another $100 so I could buy 20 copies instead of 10 for my book signing. I'm like, okay, awesome. The end of the month arrives. I message the editor, and this is all done through Facebook Messenger, I might add, and all my contact was through the editor and not with the owner of the company, which now sounds a little odd. But at the time, she was like a family friend, so that's why I made all my contact through her. I was more comfortable talking to her, I guess. Anyway, I messaged the editor, and I told her, okay, I would like to place my order for 20 copies. And she's like, okay, just letting you know, these 20 copies will not have the free shipping because you use that on your order of 10 other copies. I'm like, what? Excuse me? And she's like, when you placed your order at the beginning of the month for those 10 copies? And I'm like, hold on. I did not ask you to place the order. I asked how much it would cost to purchase 10 copies. I never said, please put in an order for 10 copies. So she brought the issue to the owner of the company. I stated I never asked her to put in the order. I was simply only asking the cost. Okay? And then the editor took sole responsibility, apologized for the miscommunication, and said that she would pay for the extra cost of shipping out of pocket. Okay. I get my 20 author copies. 10 are with the faulty cover because she put in the order for the first 10 when I still had the faulty cover. So I arrived, 10 have the faulty cover, 10 have the fixed cover. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So I do my book signing. It's great. Another friend who is friends with my mom and her friend who helps her run the store and the editor attends the book reading. Okay. She was actually my music teacher for a while. She was a great lady. And my book signing went amazing. A bunch of people showed up. It was great. I had a good time. I almost sold my entire inventory of books, which was fabulous. And that was that. So now friends and family have started purchasing my book. Okay, good, nice, awesome. My brother, one of the people who have read my book, I come home from work one day and my brother informs me that my book has a duplicated chapter and that there are dozens of missed spelling and grammar mistakes. I'm like, I didn't care about the spelling and grammar mistakes. I cared about the duplicated chapter. I'm like, what the fuck? So I run upstairs and I grab my copy of my book from my office, okay, and I flip through. Hold on, I gotta find it now here. It's chapter 30 and 31 are the exact same chapter. There's not a missing chapter. It's just duplicated. That's 37. God. You can tell I haven't looked through this in a while. Here it is. So this is chapter 30, and it starts with before we left the base. You go to the next chapter, chapter 31. It also starts with before we left the base. This is like the massive fight scene at, what was it, Kara's Candies? I think that's what I called it. And I was furious. I'm like, how did this happen? The formatting is messed up and there's a double chapter. And not even the page margins were the same on every page. Like, there was so much wrong with it. In total, there were 114 misspelling and grammar mistakes. But they were all mistakes that wouldn't have been picked up by just sending the manuscript through, God, what's the word I'm thinking of? Spell check. Thank you. They're all mistakes that wouldn't have been picked up by just sending the manuscript through spell check. Such as it said monologue clock instead of analog clock. Stuff like that. Wrong word. Stuff like that. So it looked to me and my family who read the book and friends that she didn't actually go through it. The editor didn't actually go through it. She just sent it through spell check. Now, that is not an accusation. That was just my opinion at the time. So I politely and professionally email, not through Messenger, email the editor and the owner of the magazine. And I said, this is an issue. It needs to be corrected immediately. I cannot continue to sell faulty books. First it was the cover, and now it's a duplicated chapter. No matter what I do, I'm just finding more and more mistakes in my manuscript. I cannot sell this. This is damaging to my reputation because I'm selling faulty books. Not to mention it's my debut. So I emailed them and I'm like, this needs to be fixed. How can we fix it? The editor then messaged me through Facebook Messenger again, stating that in order to get it fixed, it will cost me over $100. I'm like, excuse, over $100? This isn't my mistake. I did not send you a manuscript with a duplicated chapter. And I looked back through all of our editing documents that we switched back and forth. None of them had a duplicated chapter. And if they did, the editor should have caught that when going through the manuscript if she didn't just run it through spell check. Once again, my opinion, I'm not making accusations. This is my opinion, like my favorite color is yellow. This is not an accusation. This was my opinion at the time. She has told me that she did not just run it through spell check. I believe her. Things can be missed, okay? I'm terrible at spelling and grammar. I'm not an editor. And I'm like, okay, this was not my mistake. Why do I have to pay $100 out of pocket to get this mistake fixed? And she said it states clearly in the contract that once the book is published, once you receive the galleys, if you need to take the book down and fix something, or you want something to be changed, it will cost you, I think it was like $124 or something. And I'm like, okay, but once again, I'm being a broken record. This was not my mistake. And she said, It must have been an issue with formatting. We acknowledge that it's not your mistake. We acknowledge that it is our mistake, that it's a duplicated chapter, but it's still the author's responsibility to pay for it to be fixed. I'm like, how is that fair? You admit and apologize for making this mistake, and you expect me to pay over $100 to still fix it? So I said, no, I'm not paying that. They claim that that is the cost Amazon charges them to take down a book. Before I went to a publishing company, like I said before, I was going to publish through KDP. I had done hours and hours of extensive research on KDP and even discussed KDP and how to publish through KDP and the ins and out of KDP with some of my author friends who have published through KDP. It's a free publishing platform. They do not charge you to take down a book. Okay, I understand that it's more work on the publishing company. So if that was like the $100 labor fee of having to get someone to take it down and edit it and then republish it again, I get that. I understand a labor fee. I 100% get that. But claiming that it's Amazon that charges you that when they don't, that's different. So I refuse to pay it. I'm like, no. I'm not paying to fix a mistake that you guys made. That's bullshit. So they discovered a way to fix it that wouldn't cost any of us money. I'm like, okay. My book was only released in Kindle and hardcover. And they said, well, if we release your paperback version early, we can fix it and then upload the fixed manuscript as the paperback version. I don't quite understand how that fixes the issue of the hardcover with the duplicated chapter. I'm like, you know what? If you think it'll fix it, you're the publisher here. And the editor offered at the time, she's like, if you would like, I can also fix those 114 spelling mistakes that were missed. Because my mother and my brother were generous enough to go through the manuscript, study each and every word, and highlight everything that was wrong. And the editor even offered to have their junior editor, the junior editor of the publishing company, to look at it. Which she later claims that she said that they would have an unbiased third-party editor go through it. It's the company's junior editor. A little biased to me, but you know. So I threw my hands in the air and I was like, you know what? No. I want my rights back, and I'm going to republish my book properly, because you guys have done nothing but butcher it from day one. Like, done nothing but butcher it. So I wrote an email to the editor and to the publisher of the company stating all the reasons I'm unsatisfied with my experience with the company, and that I would like my rights returned to me, a sales report, and all royalties owed. Without a problem, the owner was like, yep, okay, that's fair. Sign me back my royalties. Along with it, he sent me an NDA. Non-disclosure agreement. So I'm assuming you all know what an NDA is. So I asked him, I'm like, why are you requesting I sign a mutual NDA? And he said that it's just standards of practice. And I said, but it's not standard practice. It's standard practice to request someone to sign an NDA before they sign a contract stating that you will not reveal the company's secrets. And I'm like, well, what confidential information am I privy to that makes me required to sign an NDA. And he didn't really give me an answer. I'm not signing the NDA. I told him that right to his face. I said, I am not signing the NDA, which I might add, this conversation has now also moved over to Facebook Messenger. He's like, yeah, I said, no, I'm not signing the NDA. It is an unenforceable NDA. I think, my personal opinion, I think that they were forcing me to sign an NDA so I couldn't tell people about how much they butchered my book. So it wasn't an NDA, it was a gag order. That's what it was. So I refused to sign it. I'm still waiting for him to forward my sales report and my royalties. This is about August 2024? July, August 2024. Okay. So he sends me daily reminders to sign the NDA, even after I told him that I was not signing it. He sent me daily reminders. So one day I got enough and I messaged him and I'm like, when will you forward me my royalties? Because he has not yet forwarded. This is like a week after I got my rights back and he has still not forwarded my royalties and he has still not sent me a sales report. So I'm like, when will I get my royalties? And he said, his exact words were, you haven't signed the NDA. So I was like, hold on. Let me get this straight, okay? You are refusing to give me my royalties unless I sign a non-enforceable gag order. Nowhere does it say in the contract that I must sign an NDA in order to receive my royalties. That is illegal. That's what I told him. I'm like, that is illegal. You are illegally holding my royalties. And then, for some reason, knowing that my mother was close with the editor, he created a group chat with him, my mother, and me, probably hoping that my mother would, like, pull me back and be like, Jessica, calm the fuck down. So, me and my mother both questioned him about the NDA and questioned why he wasn't sending me royalties and hasn't sent me my sales report. So I also was supposed to receive quarter annual and semi-annual reports. And I never did. My book was published for about 6 months at that point, I think, and I never received any reports. I was also supposed to receive my first batch of royalties in June and never did. I found that out while this was going on and I was looking back and going over the contract again. Which I had gotten a friend of my grandmother's from the US, because the company is based in California, read over the entire contract for me and gave me advice and stuff like that. So, oh my god. So, eventually, he caved and he sent me my royalties. It was only like $40. I was only got 10%. So it was only like $40. But still, they were my royalties and he was illegally holding them. So eventually, after us questioning him enough, we were polite and we were professional. We were not rude. But we were just like, well, it states this in the contract. Well, it states this in the contract. Well, this and this and this. We just kept hitting him with facts that he couldn't lie his way out of anymore or get around anymore. So he just threw his hands up and he was like, fine, here are your royalties. He sent me the royalties. And I'm like, I still want a sales report. He just sent me a screenshot from his phone of all the books that had been sold through Amazon. I'm like, that's not a proper or professional sales report, but I guess that's what all I was getting. So, and after all was said and done, he's like, all I ask is that you do me a kindness. Just do me a kindness. Probably meaning that because I didn't sign the NDA, he was asking that we didn't go public about all of this. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I have my rights back. I'm happy. And I moved on. I made an announcement stating that my book was unpublished and I was no longer affiliated with this company. And so did they. So I screenshotted, that was on Facebook, I screenshotted their post, which had the company's name, who wrote it. It was the editor, so it's like the editor's name and everything at the bottom. And stating that they were now no longer affiliated with me or my now unpublished novel. And I screenshotted that and added it to my Instagram stories. Now, this editor had blocked me on Facebook. And after me sharing this post, they also blocked me from the company's Facebook page. I'm like, seriously? So after the editor had blocked me, this was like, the editor blocked me a couple days before this even happened. Because I said I was unhappy with the editing job they did on my book. So they blocked me. So I share this. Not even 10 minutes later, I get a message on Instagram from the editor asking me to take it down, saying that I do not have permission to use their content. I said, I am simply sharing a public post that has my full name in it and the full name of my novel on my Instagram stories, which is temporary, I might add. And I'm like, I never claimed the content was my own. It says the name of the publishing company right in the post. And I blocked her because she was scouting my Instagram after she blocked me on Facebook. I'm like, are you kidding me? How unprofessional is that? So, this was in like August. Months go by. I'm working hard to edit The Murder Society and get it republished. It hurt my confidence a little bit. I won't lie. I went into a writing slump that I'm still trying to get out of. Simply because, not of the situation itself, but because of, I feel like all my hard work went to waste. I spent a year in total writing and editing this book. I was so confident and so proud of myself that I had finally reached the massive milestone of finally being a published author. I had a novel out in the world. And then that was ripped away from me. Like, I know I asked for my rights back, but I was frustrated. I was hurt. But I was determined to get it republished. So I moved on, la-di-da-di-da. And then about mid to end of October 2024, it came to my attention that the editor had been slandering me on her podcast. I listened to the whole, hour, 40-minute podcast. It was titled The Opinions Expressed, I might add. And for the first 40 minutes, she talks about truth and reconciliation. And residential schools. And then she states that it's a distraction. So in case the video gets flagged, they will listen to a couple minutes, realize that it's just mindless banter, and move on. And then she begins to slander me. She doesn't name names. She doesn't say Jessica Alexandria. She doesn't say the name of my book. But she says so much specific detail that it's obvious who she's talking about. She's dropping clues. And if you've been paying attention, you know who it is. Like the fact that I made my own cover. She states how how many words my book is, when this all happened, and all of the specifics I previously listed in this video. She all mentions that. So it's blatantly obvious who she's talking about. And she claims she is simply just stating her side of the story. And that's one thing. Like, I'm on here, I'm stating my side of the story. Okay, whatever. I wrote an article stating my side of the story. Only after I found the slander episode, because I was going to keep quiet. Like, I wasn't going to ruin their reputation because I had an unpleasant experience. It happens. We just weren't the right fit. So I was going to keep my mouth shut out of kindness out of doing a kindness for the owner, like I said I would. Okay? Oh my god. Like, she claimed that she was just sharing her side of the story, but it was slander. I even had to get a lawyer involved, so I actually made up a transcript of the episode to send the lawyer, so the lawyer wouldn't have to listen through the entire episode. There are things that she states that are outright lies, that we have proof of are lies, such as she claims in this episode that there were thousands of spelling and grammar mistakes when she got the manuscript. There were not thousands. There were, in a 100,000 page book, there were like a couple hundred. And like I said, I'm terrible with spelling and grammar, okay? Like, I can't spell worth shit. So, and I was open and honest with her with that, okay? And then, see, and I have proof that this is a lie because she sent me a video of the manuscript with the spell check, like, count of how many errors there were, and it wasn't near 1,000. And in this podcast episode, she claims there were thousands of spelling and grammar mistakes. So I have that evidence to prove that that's a lie. She also claims that she has proof that I did ask her to put in the order of 10 author copies. But I also have the proof saying that I didn't, so I don't know what that's about. And, she goes on to tell her side of the story, and it's like, no, I don't doubt that editing is a hard job. I couldn't do it, right? Like, I could not edit. Even if I could spell decently and have good grammar, I would still not be an editor because it's a hard job, and I don't think I have the brain cells nor the brain power to do that. So I give her a lot of credit for being an editor because it's a hard job, okay? Like I said, stating your opinion is one thing. Expressing your opinions is one thing. But insulting someone on a public platform, might I mention that the publishing company owns this podcast. The podcast is a podcast through the publishing company, and it even says at the beginning of the episode, this podcast is brought to you by the publishing company name. So I'm like, this is really who you want representing your company? Someone who slanders former clients? Like, she calls me an idiot twice. She goes, like, the book is an amazing premise, but the author's an idiot. In that same sentence, she calls me an idiot again. She calls me an asshole. She says that my manuscript shouldn't look like a 4-year-old scribbling all over a piece of paper just to get a grade, and that it's obvious when the school system has failed someone. She also mentions that her and a group of local ladies, one of which is the women who attended my book signing, including and also the manager of my mom's store, and another friend in that party. Apparently they all refer to my mother and I as twit and twat. Just let that sink in. All because I wanted my rights back because they butchered my book. And I was very open and honest, the fact that I had spelling issues and that I'm autistic. Like, So, I mean, it's not a very creative name. It's like, so much more room for improvement there, but we're not going to get into that. Not very original. She even states near the end of the podcast episode that she wants to ruin my reputation. She says, I want to ruin her reputation. I'm not going to, but oh God, do I really want to, but I won't, because I'm a kind person. So she is publicly stating on a public platform, this is on like Spotify and SoundCloud and like a whole bunch of other shit. She is publicly stating that she wants to ruin my reputation. Because why? Because I hurt her ego? Like, you can't do that! You cannot publicly state that you want to ruin someone's reputation. And then she goes on to say that what I'm about to say next is what truly hurts me. It's not the name calling. It's not that they refer to me and my mother as twin twats. It's not that she says that I'm an idiot. It's not that she says that I'm stupid because I can't spell and I'm a writer. It's none of that. None of that. Water off a duck's back. What truly stuck with me is the fact that she and this group of local ladies are spreading rumors that I used AI to write my novel. That is a lie. I do not support AI. It is stealing people's jobs and is taking money away from artists who use their art to make a living. I do not support AI. I do not. So, knowing that there are some people out there who believe that this book that I spent a year putting blood, sweat, and tears into, believe that it's all AI. But the best thing is, she's contradicting herself, because if it was AI, there wouldn't be any spelling or grammar mistakes, would there? No, there wouldn't be. How did this rumor start, you may ask? You remember that friend that I told you that's part of this group of local ladies who's slandering me, who attended my book reading? Well, her and I had a falling out on an unrelated issue that involved security at an event because she started threatening me. This was after my book signing, by the way. So she went and told my editor that during my book reading, I stumbled on my words as if I had never read this book before. As if I had artificial help to write my book. As if I had never read it before because I couldn't read words that I supposedly wrote. And that's who started this rumor. And now this editor is publicly stating that she believes my book was written by AI. And this group of local ladies, and we're in a small town, word's gonna travel fast. All because I wanted my rights back. I suppose this is the world we live in. So, I contacted a lawyer, wrote a friendly cease and desist letter, and I sent it to the editor and the group of 3 local ladies. Because of the falling out with the one lady that had to get security involved at an event and everything, she was no longer invited to one of my short film premieres. And someone else in this group of local ladies actually came into my work and cornered me in my till and harassed me about this whole situation when I couldn't stand up for myself because I was at work. When you think you cannot dive any lower, you go to someone's place of business and corner them at their till, who is autistic, I might add, and harass them where they cannot stand up for themselves. And it was made clear that if she did it again, we would be suing her with harassment, because that is not okay. So, back on track a little bit here. All of the local ladies and this editor receive cease and desist letters. The editor lives out of town, so the local ladies received their cease and desist letter first. Okay. Well, they must have warned the editor about the cease and desist letters, because when the editor received hers, she refused to sign for it, and it got turned away. It got sent back here. Something else I want to mention. I mentioned how my mother owns an occult store. Well, me, her, and this group of ladies, including the editor, are all pagan. This editor states in her podcast episode, because this editor had copies of her novel in my mother's store to sell. Before my book was published in February 2024, my mother's book shut down, unfortunately. So the editor wanted her books back. This is fall 2024, and the editor is still requesting her books back. So this was before the slandering episode. This was like right after I got my rights back and my royalties. So in the books that we sent back to the editor with her books, we added a copy of my book with all of the mistakes highlighted, as we said we would if she asked for it. She never did ask for it, but we sent it with her anyway, because we don't need it anymore. In her podcast episode, she states she put the book in her freezer. If you're pagan, you know that that's a very unfortunate thing. She's obviously doing some spell work there, putting my book in her freezer. And I'm just going to leave that there. Let that sink in for a minute. She states this publicly. Just let that sink in. So she turns away our cease and desist letter. We get the lawyer to send just the editor a digital cease and desist email. And at this time, she posts episodes semi-weekly to every 3 weeks on this podcast. And every episode, almost every episode, she has mentioned something about the situation. Her newest episode after the lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, she went on about how there's such a thing as free speech, and I'm not going to let people scare me into doing what they want. I'm not going to be walked all over like a doormat. We contacted a lawyer. We had every intention to sue her. The lawyer said that he believed that we had a very good case for defamation, and he believed that we would win. But we cannot sue people, apparently, if they have nothing to sue for. So we physically could not sue this woman who was slandering me publicly, and still is, I might add. So I tried to get a band of people together, friends and family, to send emails to the official podcast email and the company stating that this is not okay and that it needs to be removed. I even sent emails to every single platform the podcast is available on and told them, this is slander. This is illegal slander. This needs to be taken down. Half of them won't do anything because they haven't named my name. We even looked into going after her for cyber abuse. So, in a nutshell, that is why my book, The Murder Society, is now unpublished. After all the hard work I put into this, I trusted the wrong people, and they are trying to ruin my reputation and are slandering me. Why? I still don't quite know, because, I moved on. I told the owner that I wouldn't go public about what happened. But then the editor slanders me? If you have made it this far in the video, I thank you. My recording time's at about an hour right now. I don't know how long it'll be once I cut it up and edit it. But yes, I am almost done re-editing The Murder Society properly. And hopefully it will be published within the next couple of months. I'm very excited to have it republished. Yeah, like, this editor even states that I conned them. Hold up, let me pull up, I have my computer right here. Let me pull up the transcript. Let's see. She even says things like, now, this particular piece of work, wow, that took a whole lot of self-restraint. She claims there were 3,000 spelling mistakes and 1,500 grammatical errors. This is a lie. We have proof against this. Claimed it was a chore, took her months to go through. Claimed that I was the one that was late on our editing timeline, and I am the one that didn't get back to her in a timely manner. Yes. Word for word, this is what she states in this podcast episode. Now, yes, it is on us. There was a duplicate chapter. There was an entire chapter missing, and the entire chapter before was duplicated. This is wrong. There wasn't a chapter missing. There was just two of the same chapter. We own that. This is our mistake, our responsibility. I'm not pointing fingers. I just pointed my finger. I'm not pointing fingers, but we own that. See? But they still expected me to pay over $100 to fix it. How does that make sense? She states, so while the onus of the responsibility was on the author for the mistake, we owned that we made the mistake. So they made the mistake, and somehow it's still my responsibility? What kind of company is this? She states, I had no idea what the editing problems were because I kept getting, well, there's 2 here, and I think there's 3 there, and there's some here, but I was never told the exact issues until I received a package. I had no idea. I was sent a list. There's 2 in the intro. There's one in chapter 1. There's 2 in chapter 7. What are they? How am I? We offered to have it put through another editor, not me, another editor, a completely unbiased third party at our expense. That is not true. She offered to have their junior editor look at it. I have proof of this. Not to mention, when I sent my list of complaints and when I told her how many mistakes there were in each chapter, I said, if you would like to know exactly what the mistakes were, I can send you the pictures highlighted in the book with the chapter and page number. Let me know. She never requested them. I have this in writing as well. In this episode, she also claims that I got 20% royalties when I did not. I, in fact, got 10% royalties. Here, she is talking about me, quote-unquote, ordering 10. She states, so she ordered 10. Now, you need to keep in mind this is coming from the United States to a foreign country multiple times. She also lives in Ontario, Canada. She states Canada is a foreign country. Why? I have no fucking clue. Okay, so she states, okay, so shipping is stupid. Shipping, you need to take out a second mortgage for shipping. So she was quoted a price, and we didn't think shipping was going to be that big of a deal. So the company decided that they would just absorb the shipping cost and do this kid a favor. Well, then they wanted another 10 on top of the original 10 and said, oh, well, I didn't order them. The text messages prove that you did, but okay, whatever. You want 10 more. Perfect. Okay. Well, now you gotta wait because we have to order 10 more to be printed. Now, you look at the cover. Well, you can't now look at the cover. When it was on Amazon, it was exactly what we had sent. It was exactly what we had agreed on. It was perfect. Unfortunately, in the printing process, they screwed it up. That's not on us. We have no control. But because of who we are, we owned that and took responsibility. It's not on Amazon because everything is done digital. You send in the format, you send in the image for the cover, and they print it. If something is not formatted right, or it doesn't fit perfectly into the template, that's not on Amazon. They print, what, thousands, millions of books a year? That's not on Amazon. She continues. And guess what? We fixed it. We fixed it. So the first 10, okay, they don't look quite like the second 10, but she got her 20 books. There you go. Cost the company 4 times the amount that it cost her. We absorbed the cost. We made zip, zilch, nada, and zero off her book. Put it up on the company. Didn't sell one. Not one. And they were made well aware if people bought off the company's website and are shipping to foreign countries, Canada's not a foreign country, was $5 flat rate. So everybody who bought her book are obviously cheap because they went through Amazon. This is not true because I think like a couple months, I don't remember the time frame exactly, but after my book was published, they shut down their website for purchasing books. So it was only available on Amazon. And I was never informed of this, by the way. I was never informed of this. I found out because someone tried to go to their website to purchase a copy of my book. And they were like, Jessica, it's not there. They're saying that there's no website that exists under this name. I'm like, I was never informed of it. Here it is. Here is exactly what she says, word for word, about my book reading. She also claimed I didn't advertise my book, which is not true. She says, which apparently it is brought to my attention that she stumbled her way through, couldn't pronounce words that she wrote, didn't understand words that she wrote. Okay, maybe you had help, allegedly. It was brought to my attention, allegedly. There were rumors that it may have been aided by certain artificial programs. She also states this. I don't know where this came into play, but she states, I am very angry, not because I was accused of being a fraud, not because I was accused of being unprofessional, not because I was accused of just running it through Microsoft Word editor and that be that. Nowhere did I accuse her of being a fraud. Nowhere did I accuse her of being unprofessional. Literally, all I said was, I was unhappy with my experience at the company for XYZ reasons, one of which being I was unhappy with the editing she did on my book because she assured me that me struggling with spelling and grammar would not be an issue. And I stated that I was unhappy. Nowhere did I claim she was a fraud or that she was unprofessional. These are all lies to make me look like the bad guy. So I just wanted to throw this in really quick. I'm recording this after the fact. I was very adamant that I wanted to add this in here. But I forgot to add it in when I was originally recording. So this editor also made claims before I signed the contract that she could get my book into Barnes and Nobles and Indigo, not on the shelf, but listed online. This was a lie that I later found out and was very upset because she made false claims to try and get me to sign the contract. Here she states, the author was an idiot, and the person helping her wasn't much better. The education system has failed here, apparently. Poorly. Referring to my mother. Ah, yes. Here we go. She states, I was bamboozled right from the word go, from the minute my friend introduced me to the pair, and I can't use the nicknames for the two of them as much as I'd love to. I don't say bad words on my show. So I can't say twit and laugh. The other one. The minute I was introduced to twit and the other one, because those of you that know the nickname will giggle. I was conned. I was misled. Yes, they say. I will still say that the story is really good, whether or not they wrote it. The story is really good. The premise of the story is good. Unfortunately, the author's an idiot. Laugh. That's all I got. The author's an idiot. We're no longer, of course, affiliated with said author, and they're no longer affiliated with us. And even at the end, they say that, and of course, they didn't sign the NDA. So, technically, I can give you book name, chapter, and verse, but I'm not. I'm fairly certain you have figured it out. Figured out which it is by now, but that's your assumption. That's your assumption to make. So, yes, this is the long story to why my debut novel, The Murder Society, has been unpublished. is because I simply was unhappy with my experience at the publishing company. And for some reason, that has turned into slander and them stating they want to ruin my reputation. So, yes, if you don't feel like watching the entire episode, there will be a link in the description of this episode with the article that I wrote. It'll definitely be much shorter with the same information. And yes, I will hopefully be posting on YouTube more. I don't know. I struggle to come up with content ideas sometimes, and I've been so busy, so stressed, working on editing the Murder Society, editing my next book, writing my next book. I'm a media manager for a youth first robotics team. Working on my next film, trying to get Nimu's Whim released. There's just work. There's just so much going on. It's crazy. So, hopefully, I will be posting more, and I really want to thank you. If you have listened to this episode, I thank you, because I know it's long, and there's a lot that I talked about, and might have been kind of boring. I don't know. I just want to say thank you. And I just believe that you all deserve to know why my book was unpublished. And I want to turn this experience into a lesson and a warning for other people looking to publish their work. Properly vet publishing companies before you sign anything. If the only people they have published are their friends and family, run in the opposite direction, okay? So, this was my experience, and I want everyone to be aware so they don't make the same mistakes I did. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.